let's build this mouse effect based footer section with a few cool effects and no special tools. Let's break it down. First, footers are very important since they shouldn't just be an afterthought. They're actually a great place to drive action. So below these sections, let's start by setting our responsive behavior to fit to screen and changing the background to pure black. Next, let's add in a container. Make sure it has the same height as it does width, and then importantly, remove the background and set the overflow to hidden. Also, make sure to dock this to the bottom of the container so it stays down there when we resize. Then let's add in another container with a height and width of 500 pixels. Round those corners completely, and then in the background, let's grab a radial gradient which transitions from purple all the way to pure black. With that setup done, I'll start putting together our mask and mouse effect too. Let's add in a vector shape to our outer container and swap it for one with a cutout in the center of it, making sure that it is on top of our rounded container before scaling it to be the same size as the container. This is what's going to mask our shape. So now let's add in our mouse effect. Selecting our rounded container, come into the animation tab, add a mouse effect and select track. Then we'll just dial up the distance ever so slightly and leave everything else how it is. Previewing so far, we get a really cool effect, but now let's turn it up a notch. Next, I'll grab another container and resize and drag it to our bottom left corner. Set the background to white and reduce the opacity and then turn on apply glass effect. Once again, we'll go ahead and dock this to the very bottom of the screen. Lastly, we'll add in our word mark on the top left and copyright to the bottom right here. This is looking great, but we do need a few links to actually turn this into a footer. So let's go ahead and add in another container, which we can stretch to be the full width of the screen. Then I'll turn on advanced CSS grid in order to add two more columns, with the first being 50% width and the second and third being 25% width. In our large left cell, I'm going to add the name and address of the company and dim down the address with a dark gray. Then in the middle container, let's add in some text, duplicate, and then stack it. Then I'll duplicate it for the last cell with some different link names. Then to go ahead and make things responsive, it's pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead and hop into tablet and change our grid at the top to a 2x2 and rearrange the elements to their respective cells. Optionally, we can also bump up the text size a little bit. Then moving on to mobile, let's change our grid at the top to a 1x3 and then rearrange and bump up the size of our text once again. Down at the bottom, we can scale up the size of this container, bump up the text, and then move our star up so it's a little bit more visible. And finally, to actually turn this into a footer, let's come back into the desktop and into layers and our section and set as a global footer. Then in global sections, click on the three dots and set as a default so that when we create new pages, they automatically have our footer on them already. And just like that, we have a modern interactive footer section that feels very premium. Want to see more of these? Check out another tutorial.